Years ago, my wife and I went to see a person who had one of those expensive ion cleanse machines. And basically, what they are, it's a basin like this, filled with about halfway with water. And you put your feet in there, you put some salt in there, and they have these really fancy electrodes that curve all over the place. And then it's hooked to a computer thing that must change the voltage or give different frequencies and stuff to the feet. And my wife said she could feel a benefit from the device. And when I did it, I couldn't feel anything. But I thought for her sake, and in order to be a cheapskate and not have to pay for those treatments, I thought, well, let's see if I can get a similar benefit by making straight electrodes and applying 12 volt DC to the water. Now, as far as the DC current that I use, this is the thing that I like. This is just a regular old 1 amp slow charge battery charger. No bells, no whistles, no computers, because with bells, whistles, and computers, they get really confused and they will not work on this device. My wife, on the other hand, likes these Coleman chargers. These are for running the Coleman air coolers. But the problem is if you put too much salt in the water, you're only supposed to put about a teaspoon in there. You may draw too much current and blow the fuse in here and the thing is shot. Whereas with my battery charger, if you draw too much, it'll overheat and it'll just shut itself off until it cools down. The other problem with this device is that it comes with that at the end of it. So then you've got to make yourself clamps. And so what I did for her was I got, this is a cigarette lighter extender, and at the other end of it, I cut the other end off and replaced it with clamps. So that's how the current gets to those. Yeah, we've had great benefit from it. The reviews that I had, because I put out a video over 10 years ago, a lot of good reviews. I've had students say that they can sleep better. One of the most interesting reviews that I got was a guy who was trying to quit smoking. He put his feet in the water. He had these nicotine patches on his left shoulder, and he said that the water on the left side started turning black, probably from the nicotine and stuff that was pulling out. But what we do with these, we fill it up halfway with water, teaspoon of table salt in there, 12 volts applied to it, and we run it for half an hour, no longer. And you don't do it every day. You can do it every other day. But if you do it every day, it'll pull oils and good stuff out of your body. Now, there's a lot of confusion as to how this stuff works, because what this basically does, it creates a vacuum. Like if you fill this with regular water, water has a lot of minerals in it that are in suspension. You cannot see that. But it will pull those minerals into the electrodes here, and in the current, it will match up calcium to calcium and iron to iron and, you know, whatever else is in the water. It'll match them up into little flakes, and they will come off, and these will be visible to the eye. So the water will turn brown. And all that's doing is taking the water, the minerals you couldn't see, and making them visible to the eye. But then you add your feet in here, and it continues to draw through your toes. It actually pulls through the skin of the toes. It pulls minerals out. It pulls toxins out. It pulls heavy metals out. It pulls oils out. And it's very important, therefore, that when you're done, that you put good minerals back in and good oils back in, because they will be pulled out. But the benefit is that it also pulls out those toxins and heavy metals. Now, another feature about this is that as the stuff is building up, it slowly clumps off. And you'll still have, when you're done, you'll have a lot of your junk still on these plates. So the next time you go to use it, you could set it in there and a bunch of junk will fall out of there. And that's natural. That's just the way it works. But these things have been very, very beneficial. Oh, I want to mention something else, that the expensive units come with a color chart. And I think the whole thing is stupid because it says, well, this color comes out of the pancreas or this out of the liver. I've never seen any correlation between the colors in the water and organs, so that's a piece of hooey. What I was able to do is to, develop a way to actually test the different particles in the water to see what they are. And it's interesting too because as the little flakes or clumps come off of here, they will seek similar clumps and particles that are in the water, and they will float off and join them and make them bigger. So you'll get these sometimes large. I've seen clumps of copper that was about 1 inch across, very, very delicate, and it was on the bottom. When I went to dump the water out, it was on the bottom, but very surprised at the size of it. But these things work quite well. Let me show you how I make these, because these are a very unique design. What I do is I go to my local steel dealer, and I just called this last order in. I said I want 304 stainless steel. I wanted a foot long. I wanted a 1/16 inch thick, 3/4 inch wide, and he just stamped them out for me. So I got a bunch of them that way. The one problem with stamping though is the edges are real rough, and they also get torqued a lot. So you have to get in there with wrenches and try to straighten the things out. You can pay more to have them cut out and you don't get all that mess. You can also pay to have them bent and save yourself the bending of them, unless you've got an anvil and you've got time to do it that way. Now, when you use this on an anvil, if you're not familiar with anvils, mark this at 6 inches, put it in the vise, and then put a little pressure on here. I would cushion your hand with something because it's going to vibrate, and then beat right here. A little pressure pulling that way, and then strike this with a hammer right here so you get a nice tight bend. Now, the spacing that you're going to want to use on these is 1/4 inch. You can use anything for a spacer, but I found the most convenient thing is these composite shims from Home Depot, because this end just happens to be 1/4 inch. So I just cut these. You can see this one, I just cut the end off and use that for my shims. They're very, very convenient. But let me show you how to make these. Once you have these in an L, there's something unique about this particular design that I have here, in the fact that you hook these together and the corrosion will occur at the base along these plates here. But you don't let them corrode all the way through. When they look like they're getting pretty questionable, you cut the entire thing apart and you invert like this so that you have new material on the bottom, and invert this also. So that way it lasts twice as long as a normal electrode, which saves you a lot of money. But let me put this together and show you how this is done. The first thing that you need to know is that these slide almost touching right here. And if you know anything about electricity, it'll follow the path of least resistance. This is a 1/4 inch gap. This is almost no gap. So if this is unprotected, it will put all that current into the base here and literally just cut this piece off and your device will be ruined. So the first thing you do with these is you protect this end, which is very easy to do. Get yourself some electrical tape and let's tape over this like that. Do the same with the other one. Tape over it. Oh, get about halfway. Like that. Then you just take your electrical tape and you start doing laps. That's one thing with this particular design. You do a lot of laps with electrical tape. Okay, let's get this toward the end here. There we go. And what, about 3, 4, 5, whatever. So you're wrapping this up. Sorry if I'm going on screen there. So you're wrapping this up. And then you take your shim, stuff it in there, and give it a couple more turns there. There we go. 1 turn, 2 turns. And we're going to take our trusty scissors and we're going to snip this off right there. Now, when you look at it, the shim is on the top. When you go to do the next one, the shim will be on the bottom. So we're going to do the exact same thing. Try to keep everything on the screen here. We're going to bind this up like that. Okay, now we're going to take the shim and put it on the bottom. Yeah, I like to do these foot cleanses about every other day. I can actually feel it in my body and in my brain. It makes things a lot clearer. Okay, there. Now we're going to snip this off. Okay, now we join up one with the other like that. And then what you do is just start wrapping here. And I would give it about 3-4 good turns. Like that. Snip it off. Let's start the other one. Ah, it looks like one of my anvil bends is a little bit off. Oh well, it'll still work. Normally you can see that they curve back up here and both about the same. This one's got a little bit extra at the end here, but that's not gonna matter much. And that's how I make the electrodes. They're very simple to make. Now, one of the other things to remember when you're using these is when you hook your electrodes on, positive, negative, like that, and you do your foot cleanse for half an hour, when you're done, take the electrodes off. The reason being is it's very easy to leave them on and then give the same charge to the same electrode. Well, when they corrode, usually only one electrode corrodes at a time. I don't know if it's the positive one or the negative one, but if you leave it connected, you'll destroy this thing down here. And remember that what you do is you monitor these and you wait until they get a little bit questionable, and then you cut the thing apart, invert it, invert this one here. Remember to tape off the ends again, just like you did before. And there you have it, electrodes.